Good morning, brothers and sisters. This is a prophecy report entitled, God Was Not Wrong. Was God wrong to tell people he intended to destroy the world with a flood? He intended to send 10 plagues in Egypt. He intended to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. He intended to use Babylon to destroy Judah. He would allow the Messiah to be killed. He intends to send the tribulation period. He intends to destroy the world with fire. God was not wrong. He does not make mistakes, and he does not lie. He told us to watch for all the bad things that we see shaping up today because he wants us to know that he has not been caught by surprise, to trust him, to not worry, to know that he is in control, to know where all these bad things are headed, to be sure we are saved, and to reach as many of the lost as we can. Jesus said, "Fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." God is going to take care of his people, and even if some of us are killed, he will receive our soul and spirit into heaven and raise us from the dead in the rapture. To be honest, some prophecy teachers believe our generation is blessed to see end-of-the-age prophecies shaping up because it means the rapture is close. Here are some recent events that seem to confirm this is true. Concerning world government, according to Francis Boyle, professor of the law of University of Illinois, a man who has argued cases before the International Court of Justice, every nation on earth could lose their national sovereignty at the World Health Organization Assembly on May 21st of this year. The details, published by the defender and then published by LifeSite News, are as follows. 2 documents will be presented to the WHO for a vote in May that critics say will significantly strip nations of their sovereignty. The proposed International Pandemic Treaty and recommendations from the IHR that come from secretive discussions that were made on January 9th through the 16th of this year. According to the author and researcher James Roguski, these 2 proposals would transform the WHO from an advisory organization to a global governing body whose policies would be legally binding. Readers need to understand that God is not wrong. An Antichrist world government is coming, and it is on the horizon now. Concerning the 10 kings, world religion, and world government, I believe the Bible teaches there will be 10 regions in the world at the end of the age. There will be a leader over each region, and it calls them the 10 kings. The 10 kings will appear before the Antichrist and surrender their power to the Antichrist after he rises and forces 3 of them to submit to him. The 10 kings and the Antichrist will be against Jesus. On January 10th, U.S. President Biden, Mexico's president, and Canada's prime minister met for the 10th North American Leaders Summit. Christ-centered values are the new security threat for these globalists, as they have declared a war on the one true God. They outlined joint commitments for a woke, new North America to be imposed on its citizens. According to this article, President Biden talked about fundamental change in the world, something President Obama talked about, the fundamental transformation of America, and something the UN has approved, the transforming of our world, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. Why are the leaders of the U.S., Mexico, and Canada agreeing to establish common goals in a woke new North America if they are not planning on merging the 3 nations into a region called the USMCA? God said 10 kings are coming, and it does not look like he was wrong. In a different article, it was reported that highly respected author and journalist Leo Hohmann said the 3 leaders signed onto a document that looks like a prelude to a North American Union. It looks like the push toward a merger of the U.S., Canada, and Mexico may be back on the front burner if this document is any indication. Concerning the Abraham Accords and a normalization agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel, in last week's article, January 10th, Joel Rosenberg, well-known author, believes there is just one thing preventing an agreement between the two nations. Saudi Arabia wants Biden and the U.S. to treat the Saudis better, but they don't trust the U.S. anymore. It is the opinion of the Saudis that the U.S. is not doing enough to help them in their struggle against Iran and its nation's radical terrorist proxies and allies. The next day, Rosenberg reported that the U.S. doesn't need to broker a deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel because the Saudis want an agreement with Israel. According to Rosenberg, Netanyahu needs to broker a deal between the Saudis and the U.S. with security guarantees in writing that the Saudis think they can trust. It is a sad day in American history when major nations have concluded that the U.S. can no longer be trusted. Concerning the Temple Mount on January 10th, it was reported that Dr. John Schnauzer, expert on the Middle East, said in a recent speech at the Washington-based Jewish Policy Center that Jordan's relationship with Israel has deteriorated significantly in the last 10 years. And if Jordan's antagonism against Israel regarding the Mount becomes too great, Israel may ultimately find another custodian for the holy site and could offer Saudi Arabia that role. Those that believe Psalm 83 refers to a war between Israel and her neighbors before the battle of Gog and Magog know that Jordan is one of those nations. Concerning Jewish settlements in Judea and Samaria on January 13th, it was reported that U.S. Ambassador to Israel visited the Jewish nation to demand that Israel stop building settlements in Judea and Samaria and to stop expanding its sovereignty over those settlements. He was told that Jewish construction in Judea and Samaria will continue. Concerning wars and rumors of wars, the Jerusalem Post reported that retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Kevin Ryan said on January 10th that he believes Russia's war with Ukraine will end in a stalemate this year. Ryan also believes there are only two reasons why Putin would carry out his threat to use nuclear weapons. One, if it looks like the Ukrainian military will defeat Russia, and if it looks like the Ukrainian military is about to retake Crimea. Ryan estimated that both sides have lost more than 100,000 forces each. Concerning God causing the Jews to return to Israel and prosper at the end of the age, on January 15th, Prime Minister Netanyahu told the Israeli cabinet Israel will have a massive return of Jews from Western nations, including the U.S. in the future. Israel's economy is getting stronger and has outpaced Europe and will outpace the U.S. Believe this, God is never wrong. Concerning famine at the end of the age, on January 16th, it was reported that a French biotech company called Kinesec has set up a pilot plant to determine ideal growing conditions and is planning a global network of plants that will produce beetle burgers from insect larvae. Its plans include nurseries and slaughterhouses for raising and killing the worms. Researchers say that beetle burgers will taste like real beef, and in the future that company may be able to produce products to replace sausage and chicken nuggets. A larger plant that can produce about 200,000 tons of insect-based foods per year will open later this year. Jesus was not wrong when he said that the Great Tribulation will be unlike anything that has ever happened or ever will happen on earth, and except those days be shortened, no flesh shall be saved. Comfort one another with the message of the rapture. And finally, are you rapture ready?